Before handing it over to our speaker today, I will briefly introduce Patrick. Patrick Plante is a prof in distance learning and educational technology at TUQUEC University. His research projects currently are about gaming, educational gaming, and litigation of gaming content, using gaming content and distance learning with different audiences. So he is the director of the Research Center in Innovation and Technology in Education. He is also runs a column on Médiatisation magazine, and he's also a researcher at Inter-University Institute and NTFB. So he is also affiliated with the Aswell Network, as well as the research center, public research center called CELIC. Have a wonderful webinar, everybody. Thank you, Nicole. I will share my screen. So can I get a thumbs up if you see? Yes, thank you. Okay. So I'm happy to be with you here today to talk about a project that I've worked on and still am working on called Digital Odyssey. It's a game to build digital skills. So it's a game for digital learning, as you know. It's an important skill in the educational system in Quebec. But there are no specific classes that teach digital skills. So it's a bit of a transversal kind of subject, but that's why I made this game. We'll talk about that. So without further ado, a little bit of a teaser. Our space base has discovered a new planet named Solarita, and it has a lot of resources. As you see, the game is in a fictional environment, another planet, and as you know, Earth is not going very well, and there's a mission to go to another planet, and we send the students to find solutions on this new planet that could be imported onto Earth to solve ecological problems. So that is the origin story. Who are we? Well, there are two people working on the project. I'm alone here today, however. I will let Marie-Michelle Lemieux, who was the coordinator of the project, who is still working at Université du Québec. I think it's important to mention her. It wouldn't have been possible without her, and she could not be here physically today, but she helped me with the presentation. There's myself, Patrick Plante. I'm a prof at TUQUEC in distance learning and educational technology. At ITEC is the institute I work with as well, as Nicole said earlier. So there's a question period at the end of my presentation. We're going to talk about digital skills, but I think you know what we're talking about already. So we're going to talk more about the game and the ideation around this gaming, serious gaming, how we built this project management, how we built this educational game, the pedagogical accompaniment around the game. Then there are some questions of a more concrete nature, access and promotion of the game, and the next steps and lessons we learned so far. It's a wide breadth project, and we will end with a question period. So digital skills, digital competency, there are 12 dimensions to it that touch on different elements that we want to develop in the students concerning digital competency. So it's a kind of a puzzle, and like all puzzles, it's a puzzle where all the pieces fit together. So all the different elements are here. I'm not going to list them off. You can see them on the screen. They've been highlighted: ethical citizens, critical thinking, development, the professional and personal nature, and there are different elements on this list. And Nicole, who helped me with the presentation, has worked on one of the ancestors, the forebearers of this game. So this list has existed since 2019 and has been put together by the Minister of Education, and we want to promote this at all levels of education, cégep, college, and university. There's a reflection that started a bit before COVID, but especially during COVID at Université du Québec, and we were wondering with regards to this list how we can support the students' success in distance learning in the context of COVID. So we wanted to develop as much as possible the different dimensions of digital competency and minimize inequality in the digital world. So how do we raise awareness and educate the students around these important digital skills? So it gave some results that explain why we want to develop these skills in the students. It was a one-pager that was for the teaching staff, so it's a bit of a myth that all these students are well versed in technology and use computers and are very good at all of that. So especially in the context of education, especially somebody who comes into college from high school, who lives with their parents, who has a part-time job. And so, for example, at TELUC University, somebody who, a 55-year-old woman who works full-time, who has children, who is a single mother, the experience she has is not the same. She doesn't come from the same place, even though they are both students, the younger and the older ones. So we have to consider these things and the importance of digital skills and competency. So we have a question. So for $500 in Monopoly money, in your opinion, what is the average age of gamers in Canada? I don't know if I can see the answers coming in. Sorry, my setup isn't perfect. I don't see everything. I don't see the questions, but I don't see the answers rather. But answer in your mind or in the chat. I will have a look. But in your opinion, what is the average age of gamers in Canada? 14, 26, 37, or 44? The right answer is 37. So you see, it's not that young. So we would have thought that it was younger because there's a bit of a myth that says that only young people play video games, but it's not the case. This is an average. So for $1,000, who are gamers? How do they split between men and women? A, 49-51, B, 26-74, C, 68-32, or D, 80-20? So we will go a bit quicker. It's A. It's almost equal between men and women gamers. So we are getting to 1 million. We should get there soon. Now for $2,000, what is the average time that people play in Canada? 2, 6, 8, or 15 hours? So the right answer is 8 hours a week. So it's an average. Some of them play a lot more, some of them a lot less. So this comes from a report commissioned in 2022 during COVID. So you can see that in Canada, it's pretty much equal between men and women. In terms of gaming, half of the population play video games, around 8 hours a week. During COVID, it went up to 9 hours. So all of this to say that video games are not just for children anymore, and that it's a cultural element of our society that is very present and enjoyed by the population. So that is what fed into our thinking in using gaming to support building digital competency. So first of all, what is a game? That's a good question. It's a good starting point. So Herodotus asked this question. He was an ancient Greek historian. He gave a basic answer of where games came from. You should know that there was a famine that lasted around 18 years in one of the kingdoms located in Turkey today. And the king, to help people get through the famine, he put in a rule. People would alternate. Half the population would eat one day and the other half would eat the following day. So the day where people didn't eat, they couldn't work, and they were at home, and especially when they were hungry, they found it hard to pass the time. So that's where games came from. So those people, in order to forget their hunger and pass the time, they developed games like different dice games or games with a ball, or we don't know if it's true or not. Maybe it's a myth because we found games from the Neolithic area. But what this demonstrates is games and gaming have the power to help people forget hunger. That's what we call flow or optimal experience, a theory that was developed by Csikszentmihalyi. So I hope I remember I'm not mispronouncing his name, so it's important to mention that. So today, if we want to have a definition of a game, not just educational games, but games in general, Richard Maillard, who is a researcher in educational technology, he's very well known. So a few elements: you need rules that are well defined and understood. With no rules, you can't have a game, really. So there's also action reaction. So that's really central to the game. You have an action and you can see if the action is good or not. You get a feedback right away. It has to be stimulating. There has to be challenges that can be explained through flow. If the challenges are too difficult, you will have anxiety, and if it's too easy, you will find it boring. So you have to find a right balance. Having a progression also, that the player is moving forward, the game is moving with new things that appear and new objectives, etc. And the game must involve some kind of motivation, something that motivates the player to stay involved in the game. So now, when we talk about educational games or serious games, the modern version of educational games is Clark CPAP, who talked about that. Clark Siashi, who was working with the American Army. He changed a little bit. He works in NGOs right now and government governments as well as a consultant. So he uses games to bring forward some different ideas and approaches and to reinforce certain things. So he started with table gaming and moved to video gaming. So the idea is that there's a pedagogical objective that is clearly defined. That is part of his DNA for educational games. And so the other parts of gaming are also present. So the panorama by Alvarez et Joti on the different types of usages that can be applied for educational games. So here we're talking about serious games and educational games here. The game is called Digital Odyssey. It's a serious game. It's a original game that brings the educational, the serious side, and the gaming part as well. So you can use a game that already exists and adapting it a little bit to adapting our teaching to using that game, and but we are really in the classic definition of serious games with this one. So a few elements: you need a balance between the pedagogical part and the fun part. The game can help convey a message, give training, favorize exchange of information and learning. Could be a real or artificial environment. There can be an elements of competition or a co-op game. And in meta-analysis, co-op games give better results in serious games. So that's interesting. There's a system of rules that's important. There's the experience part of it, and there's different situations, importance of feedback, and the incentives and the user interface and user experience, and there has to be cognitive challenges and rules that are managed by the computer, by AI. So if you have a sheet of paper with some dice like Dungeons and Dragons, it's not as fun, obviously. So there's some training objectives, favorizing health messages and certain messages we want to communicate. So those are the elements that define a serious game. So does it work? What does science say? Well, we can isolate certain variables that are in favor of a serious game. And the motivation, of course, not just because we're playing a game, but because the game is well made, well put together. So that will give some freedom of action in the game, and that's what motivates the players and allows to practice. So you can make mistakes. It's forgiving. Nobody goes through the game without trial and error. You fail forward, and that's part of the game. So it's part of the process. You're in a safe space, in a sandbox where you can play around and nothing bad will happen. So it's a great tool to practice your skills. So there's also the element of evaluation. There's no grades really with regards to this game, but we have a dashboard that will give us your level, how much you've progressed, the different parameters that you've and different goals that you've reached, and it's information we share with the student with regards to the data that comes from the game. The reinforcement, positive reinforcement, comes from repetition. You will see in the playability aspect, you often start the same part of the game over again with new objectives and new elements, and we do that with positive reinforcements. We often reinforce skills by doing things over and over again. So it's a reinforcement of these skills that we want to build, and you can see the results right away when you've done something right or wrong. You get instant feedback. And like if you visit a website, you have the possibility of sharing that on social media. If you share bad news or information that is wrong, you won't have any penalty for that. You have feedback. So there are certain elements that we can identify that are important for the game. And the framework of this project at Université du Québec, why do we use serious games? Well, there's a lot of reasons that can also be limitations. We wanted to reach a non-homogeneous population as much as possible, as I was saying earlier. Somebody who stays at home, who lives at home, or somebody who lives on their own and works full-time. So they're not captive in the classroom. You don't have to use that in the classroom setting. So we had to consider that. It was an activity that is pedagogical, that is not obligatory, that you can do on your own, or you could do at school or in the library, etc. We also wanted to have an active form of learning to increase motivation, but to participate in an activity that is not mandatory, that there's no real plus or minus except for practicing and learning. So it's not just entertainment. Even if it's fun to play the game, it's not really for it's not really for entertainment. It's for training purposes, and we have these things we had to consider in designing the game. The game, when we began, we had some funding from IQ with different people from all these entities, all these departments and universities in Quebec. So all these people that you can see here, the color goes with the university, except the gray ones who are video game companies. So all these people were involved in different subcommittees like choosing technology, game design, the scenario, the storyline, different profiles, and consulting with students. So we needed a good coordination. Thank you to Marie-Michel, because there was a lot of committees, a lot of people to manage, a lot of meetings, and managing documents, and pushing information, sharing it with everybody. So that's really what kept us busy in the beginning, to be able to build this framework, this idea that was at the outset of the game. So it's not everybody that was comfortable with gaming. So we had some activities with Gather or Among Us that we played as teams to show what gaming is like and the advantage of using games, so everybody could be on the same page. So Odyssée Numérique, Digital Odyssey, begins with COVID in 2020. I don't know if you remember that. Then we had the funding that I talked about from UQ, Université du Québec, in 2021 that helped us start the project. We had funding from the minister, the Department of Education, the Quebec government in 2023 to create the game, the real thing. And at the same time, there was consultation with students and participation of the students. And I would say the game is secured up to 2023. We have funding, but it's not finished. We have some work to do still, but that's the progression, a very quick progression we've seen since 2020. So from the outset, we wanted to involve the students with online surveys, discussion groups. We did some gaming, some testing. We had a contest to find the name, Digital Odyssey. The people who won, we combined two answers into one. And we also used the expertise of the students in programming and video game development that helped us in the first phases of the project. So about 10 months later, in the life cycle of the project, we had a technology we were going to use, and a narrative, a story, and a storyline in different episodes, and a prototype that we started with. So those are the idea boards that we worked with, and we had a prototype. It was done in PowerPoint, so it's a point and click kind of game. It was very simple to begin with, so it seemed like a good idea at the outset, but when we met the video game companies, we changed our approach. Even though the content stayed the same, it was all around digital skills. So that is the first part. The second part, the minister 2021 to 2023. So that really helped us. It was a funding related to the digital action plan from the government that was followed and monitored by the people that were implementing the digital action plan from the government. So that gave us a model to follow in designing this game. So in that context, we did an RFP. We worked with Lucid Tales, which is a working co-op in Montreal that was funded by students from Abitibi-Témiscamingue, Université du Québec, and Abitibi-Témiscamingue. And how we organized the work completely changed. We started working much faster compared to the first phase of the project. So there was a lot of meetings, a lot of follow-up and communication, but you can see here we were monitoring things very closely, and the work was progressing week to week. And it was important to have these meetings, and we wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page and that the pedagogical part remained central. So when I talk about the learning part, the educational part of it, if the game is very educational and not as fun, motivation won't be there. And if the not educational and a lot of fun, people play, they're very happy, but they don't learn anything. So that's not better. So there was this balance that we had to find that was very important. And what's important also when we design a game, it's the playability loop. So this is the activities that the player will accomplish to reach some objectives. So that's what I was talking about earlier about repetition. So about reinforcement and repetition. So it's the concept of missions. So there's a workflow. We have to start the mission, and then we finish the mission and publishing the results of our research. So I'm going to show you that, but that was very important from the beginning to design the game. Once we have this playability loop, this workflow, it's easy to see what the game would look like. I have images here, a video, and some pictures, and I will show you. So this is our main character. You can see it's a 3D environment. There's a mission board there. So it's the mission is to solve problems environmentally on the planet. So on this planet, there are different biomes. There are different environments with precious gems, fruits, mushrooms, fruit and mushrooms. And you have to find with research and scientific articles what elements can be put together and that will create a new element that will allow you to solve your problem. So here it's a predator problem. You have to find a way to distract turn predators away from the region. So you have Copernicus, who is your droid, who helps you and gives you hints if you don't know what to do. So it's an environment that is very visually engaging, and even if the environment looks nice, most of the activities are on your personal computer. We created a intranet within the game with articles which seem true and are not, and others which are. You have to find the right information to solve your problem. So there are tabs and different research that you have to do on the internet. When you've visited all these websites, you can share your results on social media. If it's not the right result, you shouldn't publish, of course. You shouldn't share wrong information. So there are points you can get, positive or negative, following that. So it's a particular environment, but as you advance into the game, the more you open up new environments and new spaces, and in these spaces there are different obstacles. There's a big boulder here, and how am I going to get to the other side and get the resources I need? So that also works with your own computer. You have to find the answers yourself. Can we see live how it works, what it looks like? Yes? Okay. If Nicole asks me to do something, I do it. So this is what it looks like. We are now connected. When you connect, you have to create an account. That account works in the game and on the web version to the dashboard on the web, so you can connect with your control panel, if you will. So you begin at the research center, and then Copernicus, your assistant, will help you. So you have to go and get your first mission, and Copernicus tells me that I have to go and get a mission, go to pick a mission from the mission board. You have to find an insecticide to help a certain issue we're having. So then I got to go to my ship and go to the environment where I will find the answers, the things I need to complete my mission. So I am in a specific part of the game, and to click on table to get to my computer. So you can see here all of this is done with a generative process, meaning the mushrooms, the gems, the fruit change names, change colors. You can play a million times. It will not be the same from time to time. So we see we do research here, like in Google, with different results. So this is done in a generative manner. So the idea is to find the right information to complete the mission. So you have a thesaurus. If you don't know what the colors are, you can see them there. So also you share your information on social media. If it's a good thing, you will get some points if it's correct information, and if it's not, you will not gain the points. So this is how you find the different ingredients. You have a bit of a pack sack there, a backpack where you can gather these things, and there are obstacles that you have to get through to reach certain zones. Time is going by quickly, Patrick, and I know that you have a lot of slides to share, so I will let you proceed. Okay, so that was just to show you how the game works. But all of this to say that at the end of the day, what's interesting is in the research center where you start, you have to share the results and the solutions you have found, depending on the objective given. So that is aimed at people who want to learn more. It could be a video, infographics, an article, etc. The closer you are to the target, the more you will get points. So there you go. To be able to develop this, we used game testers, students who are our target audience, of course. So I have some comments from the students that I'd like to share. It's not their real voice, but I would say that it's a good game for exploration, scientific exploration. I really liked when you click on an author and you see the articles and references are there. I thought that it was very academic. It was like doing real research. I insist on the fact that the game wants to raise awareness on critical thinking, scientific method, ecology, and our connection to social media. These are issues that are very relevant in our current world. Yes, it's a lot of fun, because it's not just a wiki where everything is on neutral and everything is there. No, these are information that you have to go and find, which really helps encourage us to do research, and that's the fun part, because you test some things. I can go to different links, I can go get some information, and it's really very interactive, and your brain really gets stimulated. One of the first things that I noticed when I got into the game was like, wow, it's visually stunning. I really like the visual style. It was a lot of fun, very cool. Oh, so we have a last question for $1 million. Was the game built to be self-sufficient without external contribution? Yes, no, yes and no, or I don't want to answer. So yes and no. It was worth sticking around for. We've won. Bravo, everybody. So the game is designed to be self-sustaining. So a student, somebody else can play on their own, but there's a whole accompaniment, educational accompaniment with that. So for students, we have an internet site, a website that explains why we play this game, the different aspects, the digital skills as competency we want to build. There's a dashboard there that has everything in it on the game, the number of hours, the number of environments, the levels you've reached, and there's also a score you get according to the digital competency that you're building. And this is all transparent. The students can go there and get all the data from their dashboard. So for teachers, we created a guide that is available on UQ, Université du Québec, and we are not developing all the skills, not all 12 of them, but 9 out of 12. So on the website, there's data. We also have a genealogy to show people how to use Odyssey in an activity at Cégep University in a classroom or in a library or distance learning as well. So for the teacher or professional, why is it important to develop digital skills? So I will go over this quickly, but it's all about how to connect, how the digital skills competencies relate to the game and how they are built, and then how to do debriefing in the classroom. We worked hard on that guide. For accessibility, it's available on Steam. It's a platform that you can easily have access to. The problem is, yes, it's accessible. It worked very well, but the game was so well done that it was really demanding on the computer. So you had to have a really strong computer to use it. So we went to a partner to help us make our game more portable and towards places where it could be available for Android and iOS. So now it's the case, and we wanted to make it available on Microsoft Store, which really made installation easy in universities, cégeps. But because the game is free, it had to be paid because Microsoft keeps a cut. So there was a promo campaign launched in 2023. And all of that is available on the internet if you want more information. We had a promo campaign with some promo videos that was launched by Université du Québec a few months ago. I won't go through these. We don't have time, but we are getting to the end here. So the lessons and learned and next steps, I would say that I'm thinking about if you want to start a project like that, you need a multidisciplinary team to get different points of view, intersectionality, and have effective coordination. I would say if Marie-Michel was not there, it would have been infinitely more difficult. We also need a strong communication with the different stakeholders, those who work on the educational side and those who build the game. So you have to have a good, strong connection and communication, and they have to work as one. So when I talk about objectives, it's especially learning educational objectives, but sometimes you have to make tough calls to drop some things that we would have loved to have. But in terms of programming and code, the small advantage we get compared to the hours of development time, sometimes we have to make tough choices. For the future, as I said, the game is secured until 2027. Then we will see if it's really used and popular. My research center can do its share to keep it available. When I talk about availability, it's because for it to continue to be available on Android Star, Google Play, or Apple Store, they have some parameters we have to meet. So you need a programmer that will make those modifications into the game, that will relaunch the game, and so it's not easy to keep it going, but that's okay. There will be a phase 2 probably, but for now what we found interesting is to liberalize the code so that it becomes open source, so that the students can use it to build onto it and expand it. So in conclusion, we are working on a new project that is funded by the Canada-Quebec Agreement for colleges. So it's teaching English as a second language. Sophie Marier, Cégep de Lévis, who works with Maud Bonenfant at UQAM, a team in English second language. And so then we do some research around the digital skills, but fewer complexity, fewer elements, and we are testing that in the coming months with a control group who don't have access to the game, and another one that have access to a game made with Genially, and another group with access to a serious game that. So it's a bit of a teaser. We're doing some testing, and we'll keep you posted. Thank you for being with us today, even if it was a bit quick. I said that it lasted 45 minutes, but it could have went for an hour. So we have some time for questions. I will be happy to answer your questions. Thank you, Patrick. I have 3 questions. Marie Aboumrad, she's asking, are there adults who don't really like the game and who don't really appreciate that it's a serious educational tool? We often got that question, but the game is designed for adults. It's not designed for kids, because a kid like my 13-year-old girl, she would have difficulty in playing, because yes, there's little guys that you control and move around and it looks nice, but to do research, you have to think. It's a serious game that you have to work at. So you can get this idea in the beginning, but when you play test the game, you see that there's a cognitive challenge that is up to the level of adults. Second question, Dorina Taras, she wants to know when you presented the stats concerning the game, men, women. When we talk about these players, do we include those that are gambling online? Yes, when you talk about gamers, does that include gamblers? The association that have produced these statistics was especially for games like we can imagine, console games, video games. So I don't think that that includes gambling, because that's not the purview of that association, but I have to check. It's wasn't around gaming addiction either, because it's an association that promotes gaming and video games, but it's more around social issues about usage of video games. And we're talking about gaming here, but it's not necessarily a AAA game. It's not a console game. A game can also be a word jumble on a cell phone, Angry Birds, or things like that. So the definition of gaming is very wide and involves a large part of the population. Last question. I think I know the answer, but I will let you answer. What are the themes and what are the learning objectives? Have you made these choices following what criteria? So we looked at the different elements of digital skills from the list, and that we can integrate it to the game. So some of them we could not, because we hadn't chose to use a game where you can play in co-op style. It was much more complex to develop. So that aspect isn't there. To also promote career development and things like that, that wasn't included. But I would say that there are a lot of techniques, tactics, gaming mechanics that were developed with the educational part of the game. There's repetition, discovery, action, reaction, also just-in-time help with your robot Copernicus. So that's pretty much it. It's 12:15, so thank you. But I also want to say to people, if you have any questions, you can write me. I'll be very happy to discuss and answer your questions and give you information. So I am the after-sales support. If you have any questions, don't be shy. Thank you, Patrick. It was a lot of fun to have you with us today. Very interesting to hear about your project and learn about this game. Have a wonderful day, and thank you, everybody, for being with us today. Thank you.